What's going on, everybody? It's Tuesday, August 6th, 2024. It is 7:50 a.m. here in Germany. This is the Insanity Report for today. And again, another insane day because basically the stock market has just collapsed completely. We're going to get into that part, and I'm going to tell you up front, I am not a financial expert at all. This is not really my area of expertise at all, but I'll tell you some of the things that I do know because people I trust have told me about them. So we'll get to that. But first I want to talk about what is going on in England. So as we know, most of us know by now that last week a son of immigrants went on a stabbing rampage at some sort of Taylor Swift gathering for little girls and killed 3 of them. And that set off the British public to start protesting and also rioting. And if you believe the mainstream media, you will think that Britain is in a state of civil war. When you hear the rhetoric of the British government, then you hear them already starting to move more towards the totalitarian approach once again, as all leftist governments do, because they're leftist ideologues and they want complete control of the people. Every aspect of their lives has to be ruled. And Britain has sadly become one of the places that has basically trampled free speech altogether, as they are known for arresting people for memes and going to their people's houses for hate speech and taking them to court and taking them to jail. So the government is wanting to use these riots and protests, I'm sure it's a mix of both, to be able to crack down online and on the street, because hate speech and racist people and the far right is causing this to happen. And the people have to be very scared of the far right because they are revolting. And luckily, they have the anti-racist protesters who are fighting against them. Of course, the two-tiered policing system in England is also a problem because it basically works the same as in America, just on a different level. So what happens in England is illegal immigrants, legal immigrants, and immigrants in general, they get treated with kid gloves, even if they form Pakistani rape gangs of minor children. They don't get reported on. They basically get treated with kid gloves, while regular, hardworking British citizens get hammered every time they try to open their mouths against the mass immigration thing. And that's what these riots are about, people. And look, I'm calling them riots because that's what they look like they are. I'm sure they started off as protests, and I consider them protests because I see it like this. The British people have gotten to a point, which is the point I've been talking about for a long time, is that either the governments in charge start doing something to represent the interests of the citizens of their countries, the people that voted them into office, or shit's going to hit the fan and people are going to see no other option than to violently revolt against the government's tyranny and force the government one way or another to start taking action in the representation of their interest. And one of the interests of the British people is to stop this mass immigration. And that's the reason why in 2016, which happened to be the same year Trump got elected, that's the reason why in 2016, the people of England, the people of Britain, voted for Brexit. They wanted out of the globalist European Union tyranny. They wanted out of their rules and regulations. And the main thing they wanted out of was the mass immigration to their countries. And the politicians told the people that the reason why there's so much mass illegal immigration is because they are bound by European Union laws, regulations, and rules that deal with the immigration into European countries. And so they can't really do much. So the people said, okay, well then, let's get out. If that's the case, let's get out. So they voted for Brexit, which really pissed off the establishment and the globalists, because that hurts the European Union, which is a globalist organization. And they did not like that. And so they hated the people. The people were the deplorables all of a sudden, just like Hillary Clinton called Trump supporters They're the deplorables. They're the people who don't understand what they're doing. They're too stupid to make rational decisions. And so they voted us out of the European Union, and we don't like that. So they tried to reverse it, didn't work. But even voting for Brexit didn't deliver the people what they wanted, because while they're out of the European Union, they're still bound by some sort of human rights treaty that also applies to the European Union, or also applies to the UK. And so the politicians are now hiding behind that in order to not have to mass deport people, to stop illegal immigration, and to stem the legal migration and get shit figured out in England first. See, and that's the thing, that's the trend in all of these leftist ideologue-run countries. I know I say it over and over again, you probably get tired of it, but apparently not tired enough, so I'm going to keep saying it. That's the thing in all of these countries. These people that get elected into office, they see themselves as the world saviors. They are leftist ideologues. They don't feel like they should have to represent the plebs of England. No, they are there to represent the globalist agenda. And the globalist agenda is let everybody into your country, no matter what. Don't vet them, don't check them, don't make them apply for visas, don't make them assimilate, don't make them speak your language, don't even make them work like we do here in Germany. So basically force your own citizenry to pay for and foot the bill for mass immigration, legal and illegal, and they don't, if they say anything about it, they are going to be deemed racist, far-right Nazis. And the globalists and these leftist ideologues that are getting voted in power, they see their job to take care of Ukraine, to take care of other wars, to take care of other countries, to take care of other countries' people, and they all have the same problem, and that is that they completely neglect their own citizenry, and eventually that's not going to be sustainable. And I've been saying this over and over again. Right now, use the power to vote your way out of this mess while you can. You know, primary the people that are currently in charge. Get rid of the people. Vote for alternative parties. Vote for parties and people that have your interest in mind, or at the very least are telling you they have your interest in mind. I mean, the thing with these leftist governments is they're not hiding that they don't have your interest in mind. They tell you right there what they're going to do. They're not worried about the regular citizenry. They're worried about Ukraine. They're worried about immigrants. They're worried about mass migration, but in the sense that they want it. You know what I mean? That's what they're going to do. That's what they're continue to do. They're not worried about creating more and more debt. They're not worried about running down inflation so that the people of the countries have more spending power. They're not worried about any of that, and they will tell you that to your face. And there are parties and people out there that are at least saying, no, we've got to stop all this stuff. We've got to stop this mass immigration. We've got to run inflation down. We've got to start looking at the interest of our people. Does that mean that they're going to actually do it? Who knows? You know what I'm saying? You can't guess up front what these politicians are actually going to do, but it's likely that they will do at least more for regular citizens than the current establishment politicians are doing. So it's time, people. This is the last chance, I think. You know what I mean? I know a lot of people fearmonger about that and say, oh my God, it's the most important election ever. They say that every time, but I think this is really true. I think that if Western countries continue to let globalists run the show, and by globalist, I mean the leftist ideologues, I mean everybody that's not on the right or conservative in some way or another politically. If those people keep getting excluded and we are all left to leftist tyranny, then I don't see any other way except for violent revolution or getting on your knees, kissing the ring, and accepting that you will be subjugated from here on out, and that actual democracy is a thing of the past. America's already starting it with the installment of Kamala Harris. It's a completely undemocratic process. Just installed her like a new queen. You know what I mean? It's completely ridiculous. And they are also they want to completely redo the Supreme Court. Everything that holds the rule of law in place, they want to get rid of, and they're telling us that all over the world. And yet, people are still voting for these people. So that's crazy to me. So I think that the British people have now seen there really is no other way. It doesn't matter what we vote. It doesn't matter how we vote. It doesn't matter how much we protest, how much we talk online, how much we write our representatives or talk to our representatives. It just doesn't matter. They are not going to do anything to represent our interests. And I think that that's the feeling that these people have, and rightly so. Because instead of the reaction from the government being, okay, guys, we hear you. Okay, it can't be that little British girls are getting stabbed to death by sons of immigrants, or by anybody for that matter. And we know that you guys are connecting this directly to the mass immigration, and we're going to put a stop to it. We're going to have a moratorium on it. Everybody settle down, and we're going to start taking care of it. No, their reaction is, if you guys keep doing this, we're going to use the full power of the law. We're going to further restrict your free speech. We're going to further restrict your freedom to protest, your freedom of movement. We are going to crack down on you far-right Nazi extremists, racist motherfuckers, as hard as we possibly can, and then some. Because leftists don't care about rule of law, so they're going to bend it to be able to use it however they want. Like they did to Tommy Robinson for arresting him on terrorism charges because he showed a documentary they didn't like. So all of these countries are getting more and more totalitarian, and they're using things like these riots in the UK, just like they used the fake insurrection on January 6th in America to be able to persecute people that were of a different political persuasion than they are. And that's what they're doing in England now. That's why, even though on TV and on YouTube, these riots look pretty big, they look pretty gigantic, it's hard to tell if they really are as big as is being said they are. Because, one thing that you have to watch out for is when the mainstream media starts telling the truth about something. So if they start saying, oh, these riots are massive and it's insurrection in the UK and blah, 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 that may not be the case. You know what I'm saying? That may not be the case, because maybe they want it. They want the world to think that that's happening so that they can crack down more, and the rest of the world can go, oh my God, look how much of a danger the far right is. Look what's going on in England. They're burning the country down. We better start cracking down here too. That's, I think, what the plan is. And that's what I've said all along. Violence is going to cause this reaction from these leftist governments. Violence will not make them go, Jesus, why are these people so pissed? Maybe we should do something about that. No, it's going to work against them. But it's also, like kind of a self-licking ice cream cone at this point. What do you want the people to do? They have to stand by and watch their children get stabbed to death by the son of immigrants. Now, I don't know if these immigrants were legal or illegal, and this guy was born in the UK, so he's not technically an immigrant, he's a UK citizen. But now it just doesn't matter anymore, because the kid represents the illegal immigrants and the violent crime that the illegal immigrants are bringing to the country. Not even only illegal immigrants, there's a bunch of legal immigrants that don't share the values of the British people. They are against Western values, and they are open about it, and they are fighting the British people. So basically, they're letting people into the country en masse, which they're doing here in Germany, they're doing it in America, they're doing it in every Western country. They're just letting them on in, and those people that are coming in don't share the values of the people in the country that they're going to. Not only that, but the people in the countries they're going to are being forced to suffer and pay for them to be able to do whatever the hell they want. That's how it's being viewed. And that's the government's fault. You know what I'm saying? You can't blame the people if the government goes, look, we're going to pound you guys if you guys don't shut up. But the illegal immigrants can rape and pillage and rob and steal. And the immigrants that come into the country, they have to be considered citizens if they are legal immigrants, and you can't say anything about them just because they're from another country. If the two-tiered system continues, the violence is going to get worse, because now they're in, and now there's no way back. You know what I'm saying? And so it could be that the mainstream media and the UK government wants the rest of us in other parts of the world, because I'm not in the UK, so I don't really see on the ground what's going on. And it looks pretty bad, you know what I'm saying? But let me tell you something. I know that everybody's always pushed to say, I condemn violent riots. And a lot of the conservative podcasters, especially the ones in England, they feel the need to have to say that. You know what I'm saying? I don't feel that need. I support these rioters 100%, because the government that they live under has forced them in this position where they see there is no other way, because voting and waiting and pleading and begging and voting with your feet and trying to persuade them and protesting peacefully, all that shit isn't working. And that's the truth. So hey, then maybe a violent revolution does have to take place somewhere to show these governments, look, this is what's going to happen if you guys keep this bullshit up. Now, am I glad that it's not happening here in Germany yet, that I'm not involved in it? Yes, I'm glad. But I don't see Germany going in a different direction. So I assume that at some point, it might take a long time because German people are pretty government faithful, government loyalists. You know what I mean? It might take a while, but I think that eventually it's going to come here as well. It'll probably happen in France pretty soon. You know what I mean? Because these governments are leaving the citizens no other choice. So the citizens are basically backed into a corner. They either have to watch their little girls get stabbed to death or raped and pimped out in fucking child sex rings by Pakistani immigrants, or they have to start fighting back because they are getting no protection and no relief from the people they elected to represent them and their interest. And that's a problem. And that's why this is happening. And it's going to happen in more places. And while I hope it doesn't, I kind of hope it does, because I think that that is starting to look like, that's going to be the only way to get back to normality here. That's the only way that we're going to get rid of this leftist ideology, is probably it's going to end up like this, because people just aren't making the connection that they have to get these people out of office while they can still use the power of voting. You know what I mean? It's just that simple. And they've got to start voting for alternative parties. Parties that are not part of the establishment, parties that are not part of the regular government, alternative parties that want to bring change in a positive sense for the people that live in those countries. And that applies to America, it applies to all of Europe, it applies to all of these places. So, hey, we don't really know what's going on in England. It looks like there's like some sort of mass revolution. I'm not so sure that's the case, because it could be that the mainstream media and the other media is making this a bigger thing than it really is, in order to be able to use it as a crackdown. You know what I'm saying? To be able to crack down under the guise of mass revolution by the far right. Because these aren't far right people, and people remember this. These are not far right people. These are regular people. Sure, there's probably some far right people in there with them, but these are regular people that have just fucking had it. Fucking had it. Right? All right, guys. That's the story of England. We don't know exactly what's going on because we're not on the ground there. I've heard people that are on the ground there say both things. Some say it's really big. Some say it's not that big. There's pockets of violence and pockets of riots, but it's not a giant revolution quite yet. We'll see. We'll see what happens. So the stock market crash. I woke up and I saw, oh my God, the stock market crashed like crazy. Complete madness. It looks like even worse than the crash in the 2008 era. It might turn out that way, it might not. I have no clue how to read financial markets or what all influences them. I am not a financial guy. But the one thing that I've been hearing all the experts that I look at and I follow, these are people that obviously know what they're doing. They have businesses in finance, they have businesses in, wealth management, and they also have podcasts, and they are telling people for the longest time that the best thing to do in order to hedge your money against this kind of shit happening is to buy gold and silver. Now, I trust them. I don't have a lot of money to buy a lot of gold and silver, but if I do have savings, that's what I will do. I'm not telling anybody what to do out there because, again, I'm the last person to give financial advice, and passing on that financial advice to other people when I don't know what it's going to bring is probably a bad idea. Although it does make sense, right? It does make sense. If you think about it logically, gold and silver hold their value. They always have, and they probably always will. So that's probably good advice, to put your money in gold and silver in order to hold its value. Because the way things are going now, if the United States does go into a massive recession, that's going to have an effect on everybody. I know enough to know that. And it's going to make prices skyrocket. It's going to make it a drama. And what I think the solution to this will be, if it goes completely south, which it kind of looks like it is, I think the solution is going to be that the governments are going to say, all right, we need to reset the financial system, and the way to do that is central bank digital currencies, which is basically prison, because they can control your money. They see everything you do. They see everything you've bought. they can they can turn your money off. They can put a limit on the time that you have to spend it, that to force you not to be able to save it. There's no more cash transactions, and they've been having this wet dream of this global digital currency shit for the longest time. And this might be the catalyst that makes it happen. At least that's what I hear. All the people that know what they're talking about in this issue, that's what they seem to think is going to happen. That would be very bad. I don't, unfortunately, know how to stop it. I don't know what we can do at this point in order to stop it. I think that they've gotten to the point where they're just going to be able to do it, and the people are just going to have to eat it. I don't know. I'm at a loss here. Hopefully some of you guys know what to do. Again, it seems like a good idea to put your money in gold and silver, because the platinum, things like that, actual value things that you can hold in your hand, those will retain value. And I think that that's what I'm going to do. I'm not saying what you got to do, because again, I don't know enough about it. So start informing yourself in any event. This looks like it could be pretty bad. I'm not a doomsayer on this shit, because I've heard also a lot of experts constantly say the crash is coming, the crash is coming, the crash is coming, and it never comes. Or it gets rectified somehow. But it feels to me like the governments rectify these crashes by just dumping more printed money into the system in order to stabilize it. But even I, just 1 and 1 is 2 kind of mathematics here, know that continuously creating debt and causing inflation to rise is not a sustainable tactic in order to tackle this problem. I think that the only way to do that is to greatly reduce government spending, and maybe, there must be some sort of recession. There must be some sort of reset, just not in central bank digital currencies, please. Better in Bitcoin then. You know what I mean? So, yeah, that's nothing. Bitcoin, I hold some Bitcoin, and Bitcoin does seem to also hold its value. Yes, it's volatile, it goes up and down, but it always seems to go back up. So my Bitcoin money I will leave there, but I'm probably going to pull the stock market money out and convert it to gold, silver, or Bitcoin. That's what I'm going to do, because that's the advice I'm being given. Everybody out there listening to this should do their own research on this deal. Take a look what's going on. Make sure you're making the right decisions, but don't sit back and think that, oh, well, it's probably just going to blow over like it always has, because what if it doesn't? All right, guys, that's the Insanity Report for Tuesday, the 6th of August. I hope you guys have a great day. Hopefully your week goes better than it started so far, and we'll see you guys on the Insanity Report tomorrow. If you like my stuff, if you want to get it in your inbox automatically when it comes out, whether it's the Insanity Report, the weekly rant, my podcast recommendations, or the articles I write, which are much more in-depth than the videos are, you can get these articles, videos in your inbox directly if you just subscribe to my Substack below, free or paid. Do it now. That'll help me out greatly. Also share my videos around if you think they're helpful. And guys, that's it for today for me. So have a great one. We'll see you tomorrow.